Welcome to the Open Apple Podcast, where we celebrate the Apple II. Whether you're a longtime user, a nostalgic visitor, or a newcomer to the community, join us as we share news and memories of Steve Wozniak's most famous personal computer.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Metal Video RPG Lock. This is the annual KansasFest Megapodcast, in which all your favorite voices from diverse channels and streams come together into one crossover event to discuss their favorite memories from KansasFest in person in Springfield, Illinois, and virtual, which just concluded yesterday, Saturday, August 1st, 2026. I'm your host, Ken Gagnon, and I'm joined by an esteemed selection of attendees who represent a mere awesomeness, small slice of the Apple II community. Ron, why don't you kick it off?
Hey everybody, it's Ron McAdams, Ron's Computer Videos. I've been a long-time KansasFest attendee, both virtual and in person. I am just glad that we're all back together, and I was super stoked to see many of my friends this year, and I look forward to seeing even more next year.
And you are also our representative member of the KansasFest committee, correct?
I am a newly minted committee person, so I hopefully will use my powers for good, and we'll try to kind of keep what we have built in the last year going down smoothly down the road.
Love it. And metaphorically passing the torch is former KFest committee member Kate. Hello, Kate.
Hello, how is everybody doing?
Kate, I will accept the torch.
So I'm here. I have a Twitch stream now defunct, or not defunct, on really long hiatus, but which I'm sure we'll talk about at the end. But I have been going. This was my 10-year KansasFest anniversary, so that was
Happy
cool.
anniversary.
My first KansasFest was in 2016, and the only one I wasn't at was last year. But happy to be on the podcast.
Last year being the virtual one?
Yeah, the virtual one last year.
Okay. And now you run In It Hello.
Yeah, so now I run In It Hello. I did a whole talk about how I accidentally started a con.
Yep, that conversation can be heard on Ron's Computer Videos. I loved that interview. And there is also an episode of the Retro Computing Roundtable podcast that was recorded a few months ago that is due to be released soon. That has their version of a mega podcast where everybody talks about their favorite moments of In It Hello. So stay tuned for that show. A link will be in the show notes. And last but not least, we have Megan. Hello, Megan.
Hello, I'm Megan Lemmert from the Retro RPG Roundtable YouTube channel and also lead developer of Nox Archaeist. This was my 10th year at KansasFest. Really excited about that, and really had quite a busy summer here. I did kind of a triple play. I attended the in-person KansasFest at UIS. I attended the virtual KansasFest over this weekend, and then prior to that, in June, attended the second annual In It Hello event. So this has really just been an awesome month or so here.
Yay. Yeah, it's been a great summer, and I've been thrilled to join all of you at these events. I was at In It Hello. I was at KansasFest virtual and in person. If you count in-person events, this was my 26th KansasFest in person. I'm not counting the 3 years that were virtual, but I did attend those as well. And again, my name is Ken Gagnon. I am the host of the Transporter Lock podcast. If you're watching the video stream of this is why I'm wearing my Command Gold tunic, which I recently bought from a company that was going out of business. So I got it on sale. Literally don't make these anymore. And I also was a founding co-host of the Open Apple podcast, which is no longer airing regularly, but the feed is still available. And if you're listening to the audio version of this podcast, that's probably where you're finding it, at open-apple.net. So we are here to talk about all the cool things and our favorite moments from the 2 Kansas Fests that were held this year. Just because we don't mention something on the show doesn't mean it didn't catch our eye or inspire us. The fact of the matter is, this podcast could go on for as long as KansasFest did for us to encapsulate all the awesomeness. So we're just picking and choosing a few that we want people to be aware of. The rest, we love all of you as well. And we're so glad for everybody who contributes to KFest through their attendance, their participation, their presentation, even just listening to this podcast is something that you're doing to keep the Apple II alive. So thank you to all. I'm going to pass it over to Megan to kick us off on the favorite parts of our in-person return to UIS, University of Illinois Springfield in Illinois.
Megan, before you start though, I have one thing I have to ask you. How many times have you reached out to your landlord about spraying for dragons? I know that this time of year, it rains, they're in the house. It's just, they're underfoot. But I feel like you have been as patient as you need to be with this situation.
Yeah, she's been following me around for years, and I'm just going with it at this point. So
I know it's really, yeah. I mean, you never
That's
know
all
when
you can do at some point is just live with it.
Yeah.
You're at Ralph's, you're in line, you need to melt some dwarves. She's there. I guess it's handy.
Yeah. So toast some marshmallows. There are advantages. I will say, are advantages. Anyway, so cool things in person 2026. There was a lot, like Ken was saying. I mean, we could talk all day. Something that has stood out to me the last couple of in-person Kansas Fest is just the really great featured speakers that the committee has been getting from, tapping former Apple engineers, and they've done this for several events in a row. And this year was Daniel Kotke and Jimmy Mensch, who both were. I believe Jimmy said he was like employee number 12, something early.
Daniel's employee number 12.
Daniel. Yeah,
Or Daniel number 12.
Daniel's like the first. You can always get it right. You just say he's the first full-time paid employee.
Yeah, that really says it all right there. So, I mean, he was in the actual proverbial garage, and telling stories about all of that, and where Steve Jobs was. I think he said Steve was on the phone in the kitchen most of the time, while Daniel was actually like soldering the circuit boards for the Apple One. I mean, just hearing stuff like that was so awesome. And Jimmy had some really awesome stories, of course, as well. And a really cool thing I thought that Jimmy did is he gave out an artifact from the early Apple II days to everybody who asked him a question after his presentation. And it was a variety of things. Sometimes it was an old circuit board, or I happened to ask a question, and my surprise gift was a Apple II manual, full color print Apple II manual, looked exactly like you'd expect for an Apple II manual, but inside of it was blank pages, and they were all blank except for one, which had some like handwritten calculations on it. And I asked Jimmy, what's the deal? He said, well, it was like one of the early, like a test print run. They had the cover right and this and that, so they ran a test print run before getting the content in there, so it was all blank pages. And then I asked him, well, what were the handwritten calculations? And well, he never really actually told me what the calculations were, but he said, oh, we would just use these as notebooks. So, I mean, how cool is that? So I've got that now added to my collection, of course. So that really stood out to me, and I hope that the committee is able to keep that going with these featured speakers from the early Apple computing days, and if not, there's lots of interesting people within the realm of the Apple II, and I'm sure they'll find some more folks. Another thing that stood out to me this year, much more so than last year at Init Hello or at KansasFest, the last in person at 2024, or the virtual events in between, is AI was much more of a hot topic this year. And there's a lot of passionate feelings about the subject, is the other thing that was becoming quite apparent. Again, especially just going since like last year, it's like, well, that escalated quickly. It kind of, that stood out. The amount of discussion, the feelings about the discussion, and then for the first time, I think this was the first time, there was a presentation that was about AI. Actually started two presentations. One of them was Jimmy Mensch, one of the featured speakers I mentioned before, had ChatGPT running on a physical Apple II that I believe he got from SARC, and had it wired up on ChatGPT, and at some point asked ChatGPT, well, running on the Apple II, if it could run on an Apple II, and it said no. So he totally showed that computer.
Yeah. Megan, actually, that setup in the back, that's Dan Kotke brought that, and that's a Apple One replica.
That was a one, wasn't it?
Yeah, so it's even so it was even further back, and
Yeah, it
so
was an Apple One.
but
Okay.
yeah, but the card, there was a special card that Dan Kotke made with another engineer, and they wrote some software and stuff, and it just connected over Wi-Fi. And yeah, but you're 100% right. It's like, will this run on an Apple One? And it was like, absolutely not.
Giggle.
Thank you for clarifying those important details. I mean, in fact, as an Apple One is even cooler. That's an important detail. I never actually had a chance to walk up to the machine, so I was just assuming it was an Apple II. But yeah, that was really cool. And then the other AI, this was actually like one of the formal sessions, was Phil and Warren James, who happened to be Phil is a engineer at Apple Computer, and Warren's a former software engineer at NVIDIA and Google. And they gave a presentation about using agentic AI to develop Apple II software. And the sort of project that they put together that they were showing in this session was using agentic AI to create an asteroids-like Apple II game without writing a single line of code. And they did it. And it was really, definitely opened my eyes a bit as to like where AI is at now. And we ended up with some spent some time with the three of us, spent some time chatting and had some of those classic KansasFest late nights, fiddling around with AI. And because immediately the question that was on my mind is, well, could somebody use AI to write a game like Nox or Chaos if they didn't have advanced assembly language skills and advanced design skills and things like that? And we did enough fiddling around that I think I know the answer to that question. And I will reveal that at another time, because I know there's other things we want to go on to. But the last thing I did just want to say on this subject is I totally appreciate all the concerns that many people have about AI. I think they're all valid. And I don't know what the solutions are or if there are solutions. And my general I've been trying to figure this all out for myself, as everyone is. Like, how do I feel about this? I think how I feel about it is I get the concerns, and I also think that this is happening no matter what any of us do. That's just a reality. And so in that sense, I feel like, well, I should probably learn something about this. And so I took the opportunity with Phil and Warren to sit down with them and learn a lot more than I had up to that point. So, but that's what stood out to me. Cool things at in-person 2026 KansasFest.
Yeah, and I agree. AI was definitely something that I don't think there was, like, other than Phil and Jane and Warren's presentation, I don't think there was a single talk that was really about AI. But to your point, Megan, KansasFest is a great place to learn about stuff. Whether it's pro or con, good or bad, the opportunity to make an informed opinion from the people who are live in the trenches. So, what about you, Ron? What were some of your highlights from KFest?
Well, the in-person, I don't know if y'all were there Tuesday morning, but that check-in, that was maybe the best session of the entire. I'm joking, of course. That was.
They do have it down to a science, though. It is kind of nice.
They sure do. If you want to talk to Chris Torrance for about 10 minutes about anything other than getting checked in for the event, go there, because it just seemed like people were mobbing him and just like, talking about that, and then it would be like they'd sit there for a few minutes and be like, well, I guess I better get you a key. But no, and it's
getting through that line. I mean,
yeah. So in a way, the kind of the social part of this, where you get to see your friends that you maybe haven't seen in person in a year or more, those type of things. I love that type of stuff. So like what Megan was saying, where it was like, I got to learn more about this thing, I'm going to go and talk to these folks. And those little things where people kind of get together and you're exploring some new topic, it may not be anything you know anything about, and that's totally fine, because those are the conversations that I've got the most out of. I Speaking to the AI issue, I'm one of those people that I want to see humans do things that humans do really well, and I want to see computers do things that computers do really well. I think that humans as artists, in that you are drawing something, you're creating pictures and things like that. I think that humans doing that is probably, like, for me, that's what I like. But I like to hear from other people, and I considered a new perspective, which was that a lot of people are like, there's only so many ways to write some of this code. And if you are going to a code base and you're using that as inspiration for what you're doing, it's easier sometimes to just say, like, as a lookup, take this and do this. Like, do this thing, write this text for me. So I've got X amount of time left on this planet. Please write this well-worn piece of code for me so I can pick up and continue with the parts that I am being creative on. So those type of conversations, if I hadn't sat in on that, I maybe would not have an opinion that's more friendly to that now. But for sessions that people were talking about new and exciting things, I was very, very lucky um, to like see your presentation, Megan, about Lawless Legends, and get some updates on that. Because I mean, I know that that's been kind of in the works for a while, so it's really, really great to hear that that's moving forward. The To hear Tom's project with his floppy emulator and preservation device, the Apple Preserves. It was kind of neat because you can always count on Tom to get like a yearly kind of update on kind of what's going on with that. And then Ken's presentation, still alive. That was a lot of fun to hear about game franchises that are still active on the Apple II, and about new things that are coming out, like Colin, who did a talk at Virtual, that wrote the Shufflepuck clone, and wrote the Glider clone, and some other stuff. So it's that people are still out there doing amazing things, and it was really neat to get to either learn about some of those things, or try some of those things, or just be reminded that these things are out there and happening.
Yeah, there is just so much that is happening, and sometimes you don't realize it until it's all concentrated into one massive dose and dropped on you in a week at KansasFest. Yeah, it's a lot. What about you, Kate?
So, speaking to the AI thing, I'm not gonna get on my soapbox, but
Well, I just
be-
want to remind everybody this is a KansasFest podcast, not an
yeah,
AI podcast.
right. That's why I'm not gonna. But I'm gonna be a little kind of self-serving here. This was my favorite part of this year's Kansas Fest.
Oh yeah. Yep.
I was absolutely like I didn't believe that I was like Peter got up on was Friday night. Is that night? That was Friday night. And all the one thing about Kansas Fest, especially in person, is it
And
all runs
by
together.
the way, Kate, not everybody listening to this could see what you were just doing.
I am about to talk about it.
Mhm.
So they were doing the Apple II Forever Awards, as they always do, and we were, it was Dan Kodke, Jimmy Mensch, and I'm like, sitting there just kind of, vibing, eating, finishing my dessert, and Peter gets up and he's like, some people, how did he put it? Some people push us to be a better community, a better conference, etc. And he said, this award is for Kate. And I was like, Kate.exe has crashed. Abort, retry, fail, ignore. And it took me a couple seconds to realize that Forrest is sitting next to me, elbowing me to get up, and so I did. And so like that was such a it was so like I was like I'm like crying, like just I'm starting to kind of misty just thinking about it. But it was such an honor. Like that's not something that I ever thought 10 years ago that I would ever, be in the running for. But so yeah, that's going to be that's like my crystal memory of this year's event, which I know is I also like I really enjoyed I really enjoyed also being able to talk to like Jimmy and Dan, especially like Jimmy saw I had the plotter, of course. I did a talk about my work with that, and it was really cool to talk to someone who was there, and it was like, this what we did have a market for it that didn't want it. It was people who wanted to use it to make transparencies and overheads, and like so and talking about like, no, you really can't re-engineer pens. You have to duplicate what the plotter expects. You can't really re-engineer it to make it easier because the plotter is so over-engineered. And so just like getting that, and oh wow, I can't believe, hearing from an Apple engineer being impressed with my, I'm like, wow, you did this. And I'm like, yes. Because I have imposter syndrome. So that's why I'm like, why is Jimmy Mensch talking to me? I also got a pin from Jimmy. It's on my bag with all my other pins. It was, I think it was about Apple Works. It was some 150,000, 500,000 or whatever people take my shortcut to work every day. And I was like, I have a pin. He also gave me a key that opens something in Cupertino. I'm not sure what to do with that. Yeah, I have a key. He's like, this key opens something in Cupertino, and I'm like, cool. Now I have to go break into I have to go break into One Infinite Loop and start trying locks.
Just
I mean,
go
how
door
many
to
doors
door
can
until
there
you get
be in
arrested.
Cupertino?
What?
Yeah.
How many doors can there be?
Because I'm sure it's not at the mothership. It's at I'm sure it would be at One Apple Par or One Infinite Loop.
Infinite Loop, yeah.
But I'm just like, I'm not sure what to do with that. That's still in the bottom of my briefcase. I should take it out before school starts so I don't lose it. Make a keychain out of it. It's a keychain. It's a keychain. I'll encase it in resin or something. But yeah, it's like, yeah, really the Apple engineers were just like listening to Mr. Dan Cockey's stories about him and Steve. It's just like you read them all the time, but to hear them from the other point of view, because you always get all that stuff from like Steve Jobs' point of view in the Isaacson book and whatever. But it was neat to get it from, actually, no, I was the one that gave Steve the book or whatever. So that was cool.
Well, congratulations, Kate. Very well deserved on the Apple II Forever Award. That was awesome to be there and see you be acknowledged like that.
I'm still, that's why I went at the beginning. I have to go get because it's already hanging on the wall with the, I have from last year in it. Hello, everybody signed the top of an Apple II lid. I have that hanging on the wall.
I don't think there is a page on the KansasFest website that lists all past winners of this award. There should
It's on Wikipedia.
Yes, it is. But I think an actual gallery, or not just to see their pictures, but also like where you can click and get a little description of who they are and why they won. I think that would be really neat.
Yeah.
We have to go back like, I think it's like 3 or 4 awards a year, and I think it started in 2010.
Yeah, that's a real. I was on Wikipedia, and that's a big table because they give it to the guest, the featured or guest, the keynote speaker, and then community
various
members.
other individuals. Yeah. Well, that would be a good list to pull together. Maybe in my copious free time.
Copy and paste it from Wikipedia. That's what my students do.
Well, that would be where I would start. Yes.
I know. I'm just being a.
Yeah, the guest speakers were great this year. Since you all have talked about that, I want to especially mention some of the individual speakers like Stavros.
Yeah, that was his thing was cool.
He gave a talk about School Bus, which is an Apple II networking card from like the 1980s that almost none of us had ever heard of. If I recall correctly, Sean Fahey had posted about it on Facebook, and Stavros said like, "Oh, I have one of those." And Sean was like, "Well, somebody should do a K-Fest talk about it." And Stavros was like, "Okay." So he did. It's this rare card meant for an academic environment where a teacher can like send questions and content to individual Apple II computers in the same classroom and then receive feedback from them and even chat with the students and like lock them out or etc. So it's great for administering tests or for lesson plans that everybody is working on together. It does not allow peer communication between the students, which as a student, I would really want that feature. As a teacher, I probably would not,
You're
because
right.
cyberbullying starts in the classroom.
And
Uh,
cheating.
well, yeah, but that too. But it was just so fascinating to see, like, this is a kind of card that I could almost imagine being built today. Like, oh, we need more networking for the Apple II. We need a way to get it on Apple Talk and get it on Wi-Fi and get it on Ethernet. And somebody was like, well, School Bus did something similar 40 years ago. And the fact that so few of us knew about it
Yeah.
was really fascinating to discover this hidden gem. And I was really appreciated Stavros bringing that to our attention. Also, it's just a coincidence that this speaker is on this call. I really liked Megan's talk about Lawless Legends, because
Mhm.
this is a game that has been in development for over a decade by multiple people, including Seth Sternberger, aka 8-Bit Weapon, and Martin Hay, and many others. Uh, and it's a old West based RPG with like first person perspective navigation around towns. And I love role playing games. Like, RPGs are my jam. It's the name of this episode of this podcast.
Mm.
Like, even right now, I've been playing Dragon Quest on my Nintendo Switch all week. So to see that this game is nearing completion, and to see that the lessons that Megan has learned from 6502 Workshop and Nox Archaeist being applied to the rigorous testing to ensure that Lawless Legends will be a polished product when it comes out, not if, but when. It was really cool to see that collaboration. It was really cool to see the progress that the game has made. And I know that there have been playable demos that have been published. I myself have not taken the time that I should have to enjoy them. So to see it in action for the first time for me at KansasFest was very exciting.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much for mentioning that that you enjoyed that, Ken. I'm really glad to hear that. We're very excited about it, as you can imagine, and it's a lot of work, but we're committed to seeing it through.
Awesome. And I know you already said that it'll be done when it's done, and I believe that. But I was also excited to hear that you were inadvertently able to make some connections at Kansas Fest that may help fill some gaps in the history and future of this product. So that's very exciting that just the act of you giving that presentation enhanced the product, the end product. So you never know what's going to happen at KFest.
You really don't, and that is certainly not the first time. It won't be the last that I found Kansas Fest just to be a great networking opportunity, to meet other people in the community and figure out, how others might be able to help you and how you might be able to help others. And I think every Kansas Fest in one form or another, I feel like that's in play, and that's really an awesome part of it to me.
Yeah, we could do a whole podcast about the products and collaborations that have been produced at Kansas Fest. Not only like computer stuff, but also like entire relationships and families that have started at Kansas Fest. So, but again,
Yes.
that's a different podcast. Also, want to briefly shout out something that was shown yesterday at the virtual K Fest. So if you attended that, this might be a repeat. The off-campus events that we had this year was sort of a new thing.
Mm-hmm.
A bunch
Mhm.
of people went to the Lincoln Museum. Did any of you go to that?
No.
No, I
Okay.
was. Yeah.
I did not have the opportunity. No.
Yeah. I saw pictures though, and
Yeah,
people did
pictures
post
look
pictures on
good.
the Discord.
Oh, cool.
And folks looks like because there's several pictures of like the Lincoln Homestead and other things,
Mhm.
and yeah, but
Yeah. There was one year I went to Kansas Fest in Kansas City, and I stayed in Kansas City for a month after the show was over.
mhm.
And I went to a bunch of museums. They have an amazing, I think it's World War One museum. They have,
Yes.
yeah, that was really good. They
Did you
have,
go up the spire?
I don't think I did.
Because like there's downstairs, and
Right.
if you've been there before, there's like when you go inside, there's a kind of an invisible walk or like bridge that goes across Flanders Field, and there's poppies and stuff underneath. It's very, very evocative of all of that, of kind of what you think about with the First World War. But the basement of kind of everything that's going on top of that, there is like a 10-story tall spire that you can take an elevator to the top and basically see all across Kansas City, out into Missouri, out into Kansas. So if you're ever there and if you didn't do it, you missed out. You have now we have to go back. But if you're ever there, you've got to go and do that too. Sorry.
Well,
Sorry.
if I recall, I think that might have been a paid add-on, which is
It
why
is.
I
I think it's
probably
like $10 or something like that. So,
yeah,
but yeah,
I'm not made of money.
I,
Come on.
I don't know.
Well,
You
well,
panhandle around the park next time. Be like, hey, help
well,
a fellow American that's wanting to get high. I mean, not that kind. Come on. Whoa. Hold on. I
well,
sold this the wrong way.
my goal of any city I visit to is to have a reason to go back.
Mhm.
So there it is. So thank you.
You know, at the opposite end of that thing, that's where the Federal Reserve is. You can go in there. They have a tour. Did you do that? Federal
No,
Reserve tour?
no.
They give you a bag of shredded money at the end. That's it. Sorry, Ken. You got me excited about Kansas City sightseeing. Sorry.
Well, maybe that's what K-Fest will be held next year. We'll just have to go back.
We'll day trip it. We'll day trip
But my point being, I don't want to take time away from K-Fest to go to the Lincoln Museum. Doesn't mean I don't want to go to the Lincoln Museum. Maybe next time K-Fest is held at UIS, I'll stick around for a little while and do some sightseeing.
Yep.
I did go off campus to see the Big Boy Train, which it turned out my nephew had just seen like a month earlier in Philadelphia. So it's pretty cool that we both got to see the same thing. And there was videos of that yesterday at the virtual K-Fest. So yeah, just and I went to a sweet corn festival.
Yes.
I'm the only one who did this. I was driving back from seeing the Big Boy Train. I saw a sign. I was like, go left to go to UIS, go right to go to the 51st annual Sweet Corn Festival. I was like, I'm turning right. So I just went, paid $6 for parking, walked around. It was basically like a vendor fair for local artists. There wasn't too much beyond that. They didn't even have fried dough or elephant ears or whatever you want to call them. I know, right? So I didn't spend long, but I got some corn and I got some pictures of me eating corn. I mean, like
Yes.
it's corn. It's got the juice. So I had a corntastic day.
You looked like you had. Looking at your pictures, you look like you had an amazing time.
Just the novelty of it was all I really needed, and I definitely got that out of it.
Mhm.
So, so we still have virtual K-Fest to review. Are there any other highlights that we haven't brought up from IRL K-Fest?
I something that is not strictly like a KansasFest thing, but several times during the week, I had night hikes around campus where you could just go and see all of these weird liminal spaces that exist on the UIS campus when no one else is around. They have kind of the side of campus that's closer to town. They have all of these sort of duplexes that are just the weirdest sort of design, and you can just kind of walk through there at night. It's all lit and everything. It's all safe. There's nothing. I was not accosted by any raccoons looking for any cookies in my pocket or anything. But I did walk out, and you're in the middle of a cornfield. You go, you see deer. There were a couple of times at night people were playing night soccer, and it was just neat to see kind of the other stuff that's going on. Unlike previous years, they have an area that kind of there's some columns, and there is sometimes a fountain that runs. The last few times that I've been there, either for K-Fest events or just for other things where I've been in the area, those have not been on. That's all repaired, so you can actually go up there at night, and it's this beautiful kind of neat space. You can kind of sit down and just relax and listen to the water, and there's a million peepers and all kinds of stuff on campus. You just listen to little sounds of nature. It's really neat. So it's a
Yeah.
relaxing space too,
Yeah,
not just all computers.
I found that to be enjoyable as well, taking those evening walks, and that is a really neat aspect of the UIS campus. And just overall, the last thing I wanted to throw out there is this was the second KansasFest at UIS, and I think facility-wise it went very well. The first year there were a couple of minor little glitches and hiccups, nothing that was a big deal. And I think many of us saw the potential in the space with it having kind of like one main common area rather than being spread out into a bunch of different areas like it was in Rockhurst, and showers that are good and a cafeteria with good, there were things where like this has potential. Any of those little glitches, like with the audio system or whatever from the first one, those were all worked out. I mean, it seemed like everything just, ran like a train schedule, including, the train that was on schedule later on. It was fantastic, and I really hope we're back there again next year.
Me too.
Me too.
You just remind me of a very brief anecdote I want to share about Big Boy. We had two places where we could see it. One was at this random intersection that it was zooming past, and the other was at the Amtrak station downtown. Everybody who wanted to see Big Boy went to the intersection. I hopped in my car by myself and went to the station downtown. And there was like also a farmer's market there, so I had to park a few blocks away and just run over. And I got there just as it started to pull out. And of course, in a residential/commercial neighborhood, it was moving very slowly. Also, because it's a big train, it starts off very slowly. So I got a lot of pictures of it. I got to hear it toot a torn, etc. And then I got back in my car and I was like, it's moving so slowly. I bet I can catch up to it and see it at the intersection with everybody else. So I punched in the intersection into Google Maps, not knowing the neighborhood. I didn't know any shortcuts. So I just followed the directions Google Maps sent me on. I should have seen this coming. Made a right turn, got stuck at a train crossing.
For the Big Boy, for another train.
Big Boy. But I was able to park my car and get out and see it again.
You still accomplished that part of it, yeah.
Yeah.
But however, I still fulfilled my intention because I did still catch up to it and got to see it with everybody else. So I actually saw it
So you got to see it 3 times. So
yeah.
So.
The first 2 times were just a block apart, but then the third time was with all the other K-Festers. I regret that I didn't get to the intersection with everybody else in time to be in their group photo, but I know I was there. And just for some more context, the Union Pacific Big Boy is the world's largest and most powerful operating steam locomotive. That's what makes this so cool. All right. Well, on that, let us continue down the tracks to virtual Kansas Fest, which just ended yesterday. Why don't we go in reverse order? Kate, what were some of your favorite moments from yesterday's event?
I'm gonna cop to that. I was listening to the virtual stuff, but I was like, I can't just sit and watch stuff on a screen like that. So I was like doing stuff in the background. So I'm trying to think. I enjoyed the Dan Hillman interview. Again with the hearing about, I'm a history junkie, and so hearing all of you get all the same when you read Fire in the Valley, the Isaacson book, whatever, you get a lot of the same stuff over and over again. But when you actually talk to Dan Cocky, Jimmy Mensch, Dan Hillman, the person who was here 2 years ago, whose name just shot right out of my brain. But you hear the stories behind the stories everyone knows, and you hear what was actually happening while all this was, all the stuff that everybody knows because it's in the books was going on. So that was the one that I really sat down and watched and actually listened to. I tend to this has always been every year with virtual Kansas Fest. Even when I was on the committee and helping run it, I was always like multitasking because that's just how my brain is wired. So that was the big one that I saw and enjoyed. Let me what did I do with the schedule?
Yeah, Ron, can you remind us who Dan Hillman is?
Yeah, Dan Hillman is the gentleman who was part of the original 2GS design team. He's one of the original engineers that developed the Mega 2 co-developed or co-designed the Mega 2 chip. So basically the person that ensured that this new Apple 2GS computer was going to be 100% backward compatible with the Apple IIe and the Apple IIc. And he is also the person that worked on the kind of the ill-fated Apple IIX project, and eventually after leaving Apple went to go work and develop the IEEE 1394 standard.
Very cool. Thank you.
So yeah, I owe him a debt of gratitude because when I do stream from Apple II, I stream from a GS. Because it has slots and it has the headphone jack, so it's easy to pull the audio out of. But
Mhm.
generally, the GS that I'm streaming from is acting as a 2E on steroids. So I owe him a debt of gratitude for the because that's how my stream got started. Was I wonder if I could stream from an Apple, and so that chip that he designed for backwards compatibility is the reason I'm here today.
Yeah, it was very awesome to see that they continue to have these luminaries throughout virtual
Mhm.
and real KFest. The Dan Hillman talk was pre-recorded and was originally scheduled to be aired at KFest Live.
Mhm.
They bumped it because I think partly because of the trip to see the Big Boy Train, which I thought worked out
Mhm.
really well.
The other thing that was really great is they're just kind of the on a how the sausage is made side of things. There was a decision that was kind of made early on with the scheduling for in person was that it should really, unless there's something amazing that we've got to have there that we can't get the person physically there, in person needs to be a experience where you are seeing someone, you can go up and talk to them after their chat, that it is a true in-person experience, like many of the like kind of the original spirit of what Kansas Fest kind of is. And that the virtual event should be more of those experiences where you can have a little Q&A and that'll be kind of like a Discord Q&A experience maybe after that, or reach out on email or whatever that might be. But uh, Dan's son was getting married the week of Kansas Fest, or otherwise he would have been there in person. And so this was a before we had anything planned for virtual, it was let's get this recorded because this is a busy guy. He's got a lot going on, especially this summer. Try to get him, on video as quick as we can. And then it just so happened that reached out to him a couple of months later and just said, "Do you think you might be available once we finally got the date set for virtual? Would you be available that day for a Q&A and a little bit of a presentation for your Apple II award and things like that?" And he was like, "Yes, absolutely." It it worked out best that we could have, kind of we could have him there at all.
Yeah, I appreciate that there was that focus on in-person interactions at KFest IRL and virtual at virtual. The virtual event had no replays from the live event, which has not always been the case.
Mhm.
Yesterday was exclusively original content, which I
Right.
thought was great.
Mhm.
Um,
And
eh,
that was another decision that was kind of made because in years past, it has been kind of like a 2-day event with maybe like a Friday kickoff or have an abbreviated schedule on that Friday just because people work. But there was also a decision where it's sort of like you have to be respectful of your audience's time. Not everybody can make a huge weekend long, including a Friday commitment to do some of those things. Plus, you have committee people and you have volunteers and you have to have people that are available at different times to do like live presentations or their Q&A and stuff. So having one chocker block day of programming that is all original, that is all new. It's like you've not seen it. Was kind of the focus for this year to try to get feedback from people about what they prefer. Do you have like a longer experience that maybe has some things that are kind of inserted from the in person, or do you just want one day of all new original content? And the decision was made that it was like in person is going to be all new original content. We'll have exclusive content for virtual and just see if people like that best. And there'll be a survey that'll go out eventually to hear feedback from people if they like that. Does it need to be 2 days on a slower schedule? The community will let us know.
and also, speaking of Apple II luminaries, one brief thing we forgot to mention about the IRL event. Let's not overlook that KFest 2019 keynote speaker Mark Pelzarski just showed
Oh
up as an
yeah,
Yeah.
attendee.
that was
Hmm.
super fun.
Yeah.
So he wasn't there the whole week, but he was just hanging out, attending the talks, having lunch with people. That was
Hmm.
awesome.
Totally.
Mhm. Cool. Ron, what were some of I mean, you again have that perspective on how the smart pups are made. What was your experience yesterday?
It was a lot of. Have you seen Spirited Away? There's the guy down in the boiler room with 9 arms, and he's feeding the
Mhm.
thing, and he's getting the thing, and it's I got to read the deal and send the water, and that was me yesterday.
Okay.
Just trying to trying to get everything in place so that way people could have the smoothest experience possible for uh making their presentation, getting to their Q&A, getting connected with people for answering questions. So that was my experience yesterday. It was a lot of pulling levers and just making sure that people could be where they needed to be to have hopefully a stress-free presentation experience. um the actual planning for it and things like that, it's a lot of email. It's just a lot of checking in with people, making sure that they're where they need to be. Hey, check out World Time Buddy. It's are you in Israel? Are you in are you in the UK? Are you in Newfoundland? And you need to localize your schedule. Use this tool. Figure it out. Let's all get on the same page. And there were a few things, just like there is every year, where you have a little, you're kind of scrambling with something or something ends early. You got to fill that space. I think we did a pretty good job of making sure that there was at least something entertaining to watch in those segments. You could get up, you get a drink, you come back. It's, you're watching a demo or something, or watching some old commercials. And so we've worked really hard to kind of build that out where there's not just dead air. I think that's the number one that kills any sort of online streaming event, is just you drop people to a screen that is just a static thing with no audio, and you're waiting. So I think it's partially just trying to be respectful of your audience's time, make sure that they've got something entertaining to watch, even when there's not like a talk or something going on. You've got those little bridge experiences, and so that was me on the backside of it. But things that I enjoyed watching, Colin had a great presentation about being able to use there's still people that did not attend the event. By the time that this is, I mean, you're watching this live, but it'll be next Saturday before the sessions are just available for anybody to watch. But Colin did a really great presentation about using digital cameras on the Apple II. And I thought that was really exciting, just because it's something I never thought would be really possible. But it's with programming and a little bit of gumption, I guess you can do amazing projects like that.
Yeah, that was a great talk. He said it was his first presentation in a long time and his
Hmm.
first presentation ever in English.
Yes.
And he'd previously written some articles for Juice.gs and which have been reposted on his blog. You can read it for
Hmm.
free on his blog about how he made Shufflepod Cafe. And just him posting that article online inspired somebody else to make a Commodore 64 version, I
Yep.
believe, of
Hmm.
Shufflepuck. So the work that he's doing and the trickle effect his work is having is really cool.
Oh yeah. Plus, he's also the gentleman who created the Domino disc and the Burger disc, which the Burger disc is like a daisy chainable smart port device for Apple II machines that has got it's kind of named, and it was created kind of in honor of Rebecca Heinemann. And he reached out to the family and got permission to do that as a tribute, and they seemed really excited about that. So yeah, I'm glad it all came together. It's kind of a neat thing, and he's really made some very neat stuff in the last few months.
I knew that it was named after Burger Becky. I did
Mhm,
not know he'd reached out to the family because
mhm.
a word like burger is so generic. He wouldn't
Right.
technically need to. It's really cool
Mhm.
that he did.
Right. I think it's just one of those things. It's just being respectful, especially if it's something that's a tribute. It doesn't it's an email.
Yeah.
You reach out and you just say, "Hey, do you think we could work something out on this? This is just, it's a tribute." And
Yeah.
no, the estate was very nice to be amenable to something like that. So,
It sounds like there's in the past few years, the Apple II community has had to deal with a couple of different estates. Some were
mhm,
easier than others, and it sounds like
yeah.
this is one of the easier
Mhm.
ones.
Well, I think uh, Becky's kids understand how much that Becky loved the Apple II community, how much she loved KansasFest, how much she wanted to see this community continue to thrive. So I could see it if it was something where, the estate was disconnected from like the hobbies or the interests of the person that they're managing things for. I'm certain that if this was just like a law office somewhere, it would have been maybe a completely different story. But making like a human connection and just coming to somebody honestly and just saying, "Hey, can we do this thing?" Goes a long way. So I think that there's a lot of folks that are like, do things and ask forgiveness instead of permission. Permission is always the way to go.
Yeah. Every year I write this feature for computerworld.com, an online news site. Uh, it's a gallery honoring individuals who have passed away in the past year, who
Mhm.
contributed to the development of technology as we know it today.
Mhm.
And very often that requires that I reach out to the families and coworkers of the departed.
Right.
And when I first started this tradition over a decade ago, I was concerned that I'd be intruding on their grief. But on the contrary, universally, they've been touched to know that their loved ones are being remembered and honored. And they're happy to
Yeah.
contribute to that, whether it's
Yes.
through a photo or a quote or just their blessing.
I think that my mom passed away on my birthday in 2024. So I will always remember her passing. But when people ask me about her, or when I get a call from somebody that just remembers something funny, that means so much to me, because that person lives forever then. They live on in people's memories. They live on as just a part of so many people's lives. So you're 100% correct. It's you are a stranger to these people, but I think if you come earnestly and more than anything else with reverence, that the people are very receptive, and they want their loved one to be remembered in a positive way.
One reason it's so hard to lose people is because they are our external data storage.
Yeah.
If you have an experience with somebody, you two are the only people who remember that moment.
Mhm.
And when they're gone, now it's just you. And
Sure.
also, those other people might remember things about you that you don't, because
Mhm.
they saw it from a different angle, or they remember it
Yes.
differently, or you were too young to remember. So when anybody goes to the family and friends of the departed and say, "Hey, this is the impact your family had on me. This is the memory I have of your loved one." Like, you're giving them a gift.
Yes.
And over to Megan for your favorite moments of Virtual K-Fest.
Yeah, so I really liked the kind of the deep technical uh, dives that were taken in the virtual Kansas Fest. Um, the presentation that Dan Henderson of 8-Bit Shack did on the Apple IIgs Super high res mode. I thought that was really cool. I don't do much with the 2GS itself or myself, so that was just really neat to kind of see what its capability was in that regard. Then there were some other deep dives, like Rickles did a presentation on the Apple Teeny, and how they're so low down to the hardware, they're emulating cards, like every possible conceivable card they're able to emulate, do hardware emulation for this. And that's a project that I've been aware of pretty much since its beginning, because Rickles is a frequenter of the 6502 Workshop Discord, and a lot of the discussions around Apple Teeny happened right there. So I kind of had a front row seat, and it was really awesome to see things develop and get to the point of what he was presenting the other day. And I was also really looking forward to the GS Squared presentation, the Apple IIgs emulator that runs on like every platform. I said I was really looking forward to it, but I didn't actually get to see it because I was both off by 1 and off by 30 at the same time. I was off by 1 thinking it was one presentation later than it was, and I was off by 30 minutes. It was 6 o'clock and not 6:30. So when I tuned in, after a brief stepping away briefly, I was finding that it just wrapped up. So, but I'll catch it on replay, of course. That's a wonderful thing. Many thanks to Ron for everything he's done to ensure that all of the sessions are recorded and put up on YouTube in a very professional, well polished format. So thank you, Ron, for that. So I'll be able to see it after all.
Yeah, the author of GS Squared was giving me tech support for my RamFast card 30 years ago. So it's really cool to see that he's still here. I have not used GS Squared myself. There seems to be a dearth of 2GS emulators, 8-bit emulators, a plethora, 2GS less so.
Yeah, there's just not
Yeah.
enough.
In fact, 3 years ago, I was having dinner with a long-time Apple II user, and he asked me, Ken, how is it that the state of 2GS emulation today is worse than it was 20 years ago? And that's certainly not an impugnment on anybody who is developing 2GS emulation. GS squared, I don't think had even started development at that point.
No, I don't think so. That's much more recent.
Yeah, that's only like 20 months old. So I'm really heartened to see that gap being filled. That presentation was great. I really loved Inbar Raz's talk about cracking some Hebrew software from 1983. He was completely new to the Apple II platform, and he tried to crack it the same way he cracked IBM PC software back in the 80s. So like no modern tools to whatever extent was possible. And I'm not privy to presenter's geography, but I think he was presenting from Israel.
Yes.
I think that's a first for KFest to have somebody from that part of the world giving a talk. So that was pretty cool. And my other favorite talk was FujiNet by Tom
Yeah.
Cherryholmes. So I think they were going to give a talk at a Knit Hello one year, and they had to pivot. So there was a JuiceGS cover story about FujiNet a couple years ago, and I saw a JuiceGS staff writer, not the one who wrote that article, yesterday comment, I didn't know FujiNet could do all that.
Yeah.
And I think Jay Graham on the KFest committee, he then chimed in and said, I have a FujiNet, and I didn't know it could do all that.
Yeah.
So this is it's a product that I think is its existence is well known. Its capacity is yet to be fully discovered.
Yep.
And I think talks like that are helping to bridge that gap.
Yes, there are a lot of Apple II emulators, or I'm sorry, there's a lot of Apple II floppy drive and smart port emulators and stuff out there. I mean, we are awash. We are spoiled for choice, and that's great because sometimes projects they drop off. Sometimes parts go end of life, and you can't get those designs anymore until they completely redo a product. So it's really nice that we've got a lot of things out there, but the big thing with the FujiNet is the community that's popped up around it. That's all of the door games and stuff like that that you can play in real time with other people. That these other devices really don't do that. They're it to my knowledge. That have as big of a community as FujiNet has kind of built out, where you can go out there and you can actually real time chat with people, or you can play BBS door games and things like that. It's really amazing.
It's very cool. So we're at it about just coming up on an hour now, and I want to be respectful of people's time. So there are only a few more questions I want to ask. The next one is, if each of you could keep one thing about Kansas Fest and change one thing about Kansas Fest, consider this feedback for next year, whether it's virtual or IRL. What would you keep? What would you change? Let's start with Ron.
If there is something that I could keep with Kansas Fest, it would be the sense of community and that feeling of togetherness, of just like seeing your old friends, that we could build on that year over year, and not just seeing your same old friends every year, but they bring somebody new with them to get them to also have fun and experience. I mean, I think we had 70 people this year, all told. Not everybody stayed in the dorms. There were people that stayed off campus and day tripped in. There were a few people that might adjust those numbers that were just like a 1 day or 2 day registration. But that whole feeling of community, keep that forever. The thing that I would change would be how people get to the end of that week, or they get to the end of virtual and they think that the party is over until next year. Discord is still out there, and people can go out there and keep having those conversations and sharing things that they're working on, and just checking in with people. I know not everybody lives on the internet. Not everybody lives on Discord. But the thing that I would change is the perception that Kansas Fest ends on the last day after Megapodcast, or that ends at the wrap up at the in-person event. If we could fix that, I think that we would build more community every year, and we'd have 100 people at the in-person next year. We'd have 125 people at the in-person next year. We'd have 200 people that came to the virtual event. That's what I want to see.
It was awesome that Phil, who gave the talk about Cineroids, the AI program, or the AI generated Apple II game. He had been to KansasFest before. He'd been to an It Hello before. This year, he brought his brother.
Yeah.
I thought that was awesome.
Yes.
Super cool.
Yeah.
Everybody go back in time. Have your parents have another kid that also likes the things that you like. Bring them to the event in 2027.
Megan, what about yourself?
Well, at the in-person event, there was at some point where Peter Neubauer was talking about, his first time to KansasFest, and he said something like, "I came for the Apple II and I stayed for the people."
Yes.
And I thought, yeah, that really sums it up for me as well. And so this similar to what Ron said, but I get just my own words on it. Is the number one thing I would want to keep is the people, and the rest is a lot of detail. It's really to me about seeing old friends and meeting new friends, and the fact that we have something in common that we can talk about the whole time is really just awesome. But as far as something to change, wow, I've been sitting here trying to think of something over the course of the last couple minutes here, Ken, but I'm just drawing a blank, so I'm gonna have to whiff on that one.
The Jersey Mike sandwiches were a little wet.
I want to say I really appreciated the surplus food at KFest because there's a community fridge. It all went in there. And for those who were hungry at unusual hours or who were on a budget or had to leave early on a Sunday and wanted to grab lunch to go.
Right.
So you can never, it's much better to order too much food than too little. At a community like this, it will not go to waste.
And all that is based on community feedback. That's based on what people said that they wanted, where it's like, hey, it was really, really great that there were little food, grab and go food items in the morning. There was really great that there was coffee. There was really great that there was people that were going and emptying the trash where you were not, because that's one of those things. I hate taking the trash out, but it's something that has to be done. So people running and getting things, and the materials were there. You didn't have to ask somebody to do that. And I think that was a big push this year. Or the grab and go table on Sunday morning. So that way people could just get a water, get an orange, hit the road, So I think you just try. Sorry.
All great stuff.
What about you, Kate?
The problem with going last is a lot of you have said a lot of what I was going to say. The people, the venue is fabulous. I think the sense of collaboration that happens at both, but like I spent this year I spent a big portion of the week collaborating with Joe Strohsnyder on some projects and working with him on as yet unnamed project, because I don't want to say anything without asking him first, but was able to lend my burgeoning CAD skills and I brought I brought a 3D printer to KFest because I knew I was going to be doing rapid prototyping. But that ability to these ideas, and it was working on an idea that had come from something 2 years ago at 2024's in-person event. So this idea of collaboration between people in the community is something I'd want to keep, and that KansasFest in person especially gives an opportunity to people who are, Joe's in Ohio and I'm in Pennsylvania, which you would think we're next door neighbors, with our states are next door to each other. You'd think that wouldn't be a big deal, but it is, because Ohio is really big and so is Pennsylvania. But that ability to be, to work with people that that you don't always get to see or be near, or to brainstorm with other people, but the whole stream was this. My whole retro metal came from a conversation I had with somebody in 2019. The most dangerous words that you can say at KansasFest are, "I wonder if." And I think that's something that needs to stay. And as for stuff to change, I mean, like you said, it runs like clockwork. I mean, I could say I wish it was longer, but actually, by Saturday, I'm usually ready to go.
Yeah.
I'm laughing at the. For those of you on the audio, I'm laughing at the faces people are making at me because no, by Saturday, I'm ready to go. By Saturday night, I'm ready to pack it in. I missed my cat. Uh, there's a change. Can we get pets allowed in the dorms?
We asked because there were a couple of people that were interested just to find out if they could bring a dog, if they could bring like a small animal and stuff. And unfortunately, UIS's residence policy doesn't make it accommodations for that
Oh, I'm sure.
outside of specific instances for service animals and things like that, of course. But they have the other complication though is that the Lincoln dorm, I do not believe has any rooms that are specific for that purpose. I think they have another dormitory where they for service animals and things like that. So that's of course something to find out about, and
Oh, I'm
that's
totally tongue
but
in cheek here. My cat would not. There is not enough gabapentin on the planet for my cat to get to UIS. But like I'm being tongue in cheek because I can't think of anything because the
Sure.
conference is so well run and everything just clicked this year so well.
Mhm.
So
Um,
change, get more people to come and enjoy it.
mhm.
Speaking of other dorms and the services available there, at Kansas Fest at Rockhurst in Kansas City, at one point they had us alternating one dorm every other year, basically, because in the off years they'd be renovating one or the
Yeah.
other. And I'm not gonna put Ron on the spot,
Oh.
but I wonder if something like that will happen at
Mhm.
UIS, where if we go back next year, we're not in the same building because we've only ever been there
Mhm.
on even numbered years.
Sure. Well, I know that they have another dormitory that is right next door that's called Founders Hall, which my understanding is the design of it is identical to Lincoln Hall, where we had our event. Their shared space, like their conference room space, might be a little bit smaller, but um, there are comparable things that are going on there, and again, this is all hypotheticals. It is entirely possible that with budgetary things, state of Illinois, higher education, things like that, they could change their rental policy. They could do a lot of things. But there are other great facilities that are like I think our follow up, or I'm sorry, our secondary location choice that people voted for was SIU Edwardsville, which is another beautiful campus that is even closer to the St. Louis airport. So if even in a worst case scenario, there are excellent locations that are going to serve our community well, that people have vetted and looked at in the community and the committee as well, that we will land somewhere that everyone will love.
Love it. As for me, the things I would keep and change, as Kate said, you've all brought up some huge, wonderful, big points. So I'm going to focus on the pedantic because none of you have. Scheduling is both the thing I would keep and the thing I would change. At Kansas Fest on site, I love that the talks don't begin until 10 a.m.
Mhm.
And I know that's partly because of the timing of when the school opens their cafeteria, which we don't have control over. But it means that I'm not dragging myself out of bed after a late night to crawl into the first talk of the day and try to stay awake through it. It means that I've had time to wake up, to have breakfast. Every year we've had it at UIS, I've had time to go for a 20-mile bike ride without missing anything, which is great. Uh, and also, there are breaks in the morning, there's lunch in the afternoon, and things end at a reasonable time, like around 5 or 6 o'clock, so we can have dinner and then have the rest of the night to ourselves to socialize, to hack, whatever. It's just a really comfortable pace.
I love all that too.
Thank you. Virtual K Fest, it didn't have the breaks, which I was concerned about. But what I would like to harp on, which I brought up before, is Virtual K Fest is always held within a week or two of IRL K Fest. And this year they had it 2 weeks apart, which I think is a new thing. And Peter said it's because even the committee needs a week off, which is, I fully grant them that. It also means that between a Knit Hello, I'm spending like 3 weekends out of 6 focused on the Apple II. And the summer is when a lot of other things could be happening, like going out to national parks, visiting family, picnics, whatever. There's a lot less opportunity to get out and about in the winter. And I would love if KFest was held every 6 months, on site in July and virtually in the winter. The last time I suggested this, somebody said that they don't want to be prepping for KFest when they're trying to enjoy the holidays. I totally agree. That's a reasonable concern. But when I say I want Kansas Fest to be held in the winter, winter begins December 22nd and runs until March.
Yes.
So if you have Kansas Fest in late July, early February, I don't think that should impact your ability to enjoy the holidays, because there are a lot of other events that happen at those times of year. Like I think VCF somewhere, the new one in California. I think like Southern California. I think that's
That's
new. I think that's in
mhm.
February.
SoCal, yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that's it. VCF SoCal. Thank you.
Yeah.
So it was right in the words I said.
Yeah.
MagFest, I believe, Kate can confirm, is usually
Mhm.
like in January.
MagFest is usually
Yeah.
right at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So other events are being held at that time of year, and it doesn't seem to impact people's holidays. I would,
Right.
so I agree and respect with the decision to keep Kansas Fest on the holiday separate. I
Mhm.
still maintain that you can have Kansas Fest in the winter while respecting that, and
It's
that having
true.
it
Mhm.
every 6 months gives us stuff to look forward to. So that,
Yeah.
if the Discord is open year round, why isn't
Right.
Kansas Fest?
Right. It's the spirit. You want to try to keep the spirit of it alive year round. I 100% get it. I think that in if you look at it from the point of view, and first of all, prefacing all of this with something super important. Feedback is a gift. Repeat that to yourselves. Feedback is a gift. So when somebody cares enough to bring something to you, take that thing seriously. That is why I'm sitting here with a piece of paper and pen and have been writing down what you've all said, so that way that when I talk to other people, that I can remember those things and be cognizant that other people don't necessarily see things with my filter, that don't necessarily see things from the KFest committee's point of view, or from even the point of view of somebody's even been to a KFest. You can learn a lot of things by talking to people that go to all these other things, like these other events that you mentioned. But I would agree, and I think the reason why Kansas Fest has always been kind of in the time, or the virtual Kansas Fest has always been, because it was put at that time originally because that is when the real in-person Kansas Fest kind of happened. So that was, and then, okay, now we're meeting again in person. When do you put this? And just put it a week later. So that way that we can keep the wave of people's interest. You can get them, especially people that are, if you pay to attend in person, you've got a ticket to attend the virtual event. You try to stick it together so that way that it's not 6 months later and somebody's like, I completely forgot that this was a thing, and feel slighted somehow. So there's a juggle and a way to do all of that. And it's just reminders. It's making sure that people know where to be and when, and communicating. And I think that the committee has a new commitment to try to make sure that things are telegraphed way in advance, that it's like, we're trying to figure out where to go, we're trying to figure out what to eat, we're trying to figure out what things people want to see, so that way that we can get that feedback and then use that to inform decisions that are made. Get people's get them to vote on what actually happens, not just make a decision in a vacuum and then just issue that this is what you're doing. People that are going to be active in your community, people that are going to pay to come to your events, they need a voice in those things. So when I hear we've got to have something kind of at like a 6-month mark or something, I agree. That would be a lot of fun. It's just a matter of putting together all the people that are behind the scenes to do it. Make sure that you've got people that are available to present at those times a year. If they're not, can you just do a pre-record and then just commit to later doing a queue, answering questions and things like that on Discord? It's just a matter of planning. So, but I love the idea, and I completely agree that you could put something kind of in a January space, or something where it's after the holidays when things are kind of they've slowed back down a little bit. I mean, that's where movie studios drop a lot of movies where it's like, I don't know if this would work as a holiday feature, but it'll probably work in January when people are like, I don't have 50 people in town. I got to please everybody with like the latest Disney flick. You can put your independent film or something like that in January or February. So, no, I love that idea. I think that's something to consider. Again, feedback is a gift. I've written it down.
Yeah. Ron is pronounced Gift.
Oh, it's a gift. Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh, it's the gift buying season is passing me again.
No, just imagine how wonderful and relaxing it would be to have 6 months off between events.
Yeah.
I
No,
also
I
want
agree. And this year for the 2-week gap is really because, like you said, the people that did the in-person event needed a week break, and then you need a week to do your final prep for this one-day event because
Yeah.
it's herding cats because you've got people all
Yeah.
over the globe that
Yeah.
do presentations. You need to make sure that everybody has like technical evaluation. Anybody that's doing a like a pre-record, they've got to have time to complete that, get any kind of last minute feedback from you, because there's a couple folks that in years past that have done pre-recorded presentations and they send it and there's a glitch or there's some sort of technical issue with that, and so you've got to work with them and re-encode things, and it just all takes time. So to make sure that everybody can give the best presentation, look the best that they can, we needed that extra week on top of just a week to not do anything to
And
get
you
it
heard
all
me.
done.
Yeah. I also want to acknowledge when I say having things in the winter because there's so many things to do in the summer, that represents a North Hemisphere bias. I do respect that, and we do have a lot of esteemed and respected Apple II users in Australia. Uh, but I also realize that the timing that we have Kansas Fest being like 9 to 5 Central Time, UTC -5, is already representing a North American bias. So there's only so much we can do about that. But they also have WazFest and OzKFest, which are pretty awesome.
So and the beautiful thing about like especially like this weekend, you had VCF Southwest, or I'm sorry, VCF West
Yeah.
at the
West.
Computer History Museum, and then you had the South, or is it, it's East or Southeast, I can't remember. It's in Georgia, it's in Atlanta. So it's like we had two VCF events on opposite coasts and Kansas Fest virtual happening kind of in the cornfields in the middle. Um, the great thing about our event, though, it lives forever. It's on YouTube. You can go and watch it anytime, whenever your schedule allows. So there were a couple people that were kind of like, well, I'm supposed to be at VCF West on Sunday because I'm going to see Waz, and I'm like, get there and go
No.
see it. And then Monday at lunch, watch the K-Fest stream and go out and talk in the Discord and keep that conversation going. And we will be there,
Yep. Yeah. And as somebody pointed out, if virtual KFest had tried to avoid those conflicts by being a week later, there are other retro events happening that week and the week after that. So I mean, we used to get some grief about KFest being the same week as Comic-Con in San Diego.
Right.
I mean, there's always something, and depending on what your interests are, you're going to be pulled in a couple different directions.
Yep.
So to Ron's point, it's not the same as attending in person, but the videos are always there. The content is free. You can register to attend the event on site or virtually and get the live streams, or you can get them for free a week or two after the fact, thanks to the Herculean effort of Ron to turn those around in short order.
It's just I just yell at the computer until it finishes rendering the dang file.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's wrap up this podcast. I think we've had a wonderful opportunity to reflect on the memories we've made, both in Springfield and in front of our computers just yesterday. I'd like to take this opportunity to go around, and we usually ask, where can we find you online? And I do want to ask that because you're all fascinating people and I want to know more about you. But to balance that out, I also want to ask you if there is something in the Apple II community that you would like to plug with which you are unaffiliated. Ideally, it's something that hasn't already been brought up today, like the FujiNet. It's something that maybe it was at Kansas Fest, maybe it's not, maybe it's a community, maybe it's a product, maybe it's a vendor, maybe it's a podcast. Let us know what people listening to this podcast, where they should go next to find the next amazing thing that they're going to love with, about, or for the Apple II? Let's start with Kate.
So you can find me Sunday afternoons at twitch.tv/Lady Ilaros, and hopefully that's going to be written in the show notes because nobody can spell it. Um, and I should be spinning up the stream again in a few weeks, as of time of recording. Big giant obvious thing in the community that I'm going to plug is if you like Kansas Fest, you should check out In It
Well, you're not supposed to
Hello.
plug something of your own. You're supposed to plug something
Oh,
that's
right, right,
not
right,
yours.
right. Mine, not mine.
Listen to the
Geez.
rules, Kate. God.
I know, I'm bad at that. Look, I've had a long week. I've had some personal stuff going on this week. I've had a very long week.
Oh yeah.
If you need cool gear for your Apple II, I'm going to plug Joe's Computer Museum, jcm-1.com, because Joe is a very good egg and has all kinds of cool add-ons and repair bits for your Apple II 3, and I think he's pushing into the Macintosh space, so go there.
All right, let's go over to Megan.
What was the question again? Sorry.
So tell us where we can find you online, and go ahead and also plug some person, product, community, stream in the Apple II community that you think people should know about, ideally one with which you are unaffiliated, in addition to telling us where to find you online.
Yes. So my website is 6502workshop.com. And you can find me there also via email, megan@6502workshop.com. And what to plug? I think I will plug the Apple Teeny card that Rickles is working on rolling out, that he gave a session on at the Virtual Kansas Fest this year. If you're into hardware, the hardware side of the Apple II, this is really a absolutely amazing device with the emulation hardware level that it allows you to do, and really enhance your Apple II in so many different ways.
Awesome. Thank you. Ron, what about you?
Hey everybody, I'm Ron McAdams. My YouTube channel is called Ron's Computer Videos. As you can see, it's if you would like to know what I'm up to, you want to see the latest stuff, you can find me online at ronscompvids.com. The thing that I would like to plug is this wonderful event that takes place typically kind of in April of each year, that is connected with System Source Museum. It's called A Knit Hello, which my friend
June.
Oh, it's in June? Oh, I'm
June.
sorry. Wait,
Oh God, if
no.
I tried to run it in April,
Sorry.
it runs when it runs because I'm a teacher. If I tried to
Right.
take that much time off in April, my principal would kill me.
No, it's just it's a sabbatical. No, sorry, pardon, June. But it's an amazing event. I'm going to do my level best to get there next year. Everybody that goes seems to have a good time. It is a fun sort of a long weekend of Apple II, vintage computing of all different types of source, or all different types of types, and you definitely should check it out.
As for me, my name is Ken Gagne. I'm the editor and publisher of JuiceGS, the last remaining print publication dedicated to the Apple II, currently in its 31st year. We are currently hard at work on the September issue, which will feature coverage of both Kansas Fests, and we just shipped the June issue, which covered it at Hello. Our website is juiced.gs. And for what I'm going to plug, there is somebody in the Apple II community who I don't think he's ever been to a Knit Hello. I don't think he's ever been to a virtual or IRL Kansas Fest, but he makes some amazing products, and that is Steve Chamberlain of Big Meso Wires. You can find him at bigmesowires.com, and his products include the floppy emu, the Yellowstone disc controller card, the ADB USB Wombat, which allows you to use USB peripherals or ADB peripherals. I think it goes both ways. So I love the work that he does to keep the Apple II alive, either by adapting it to modern technology like SD cards, or even replacing aging cards like floppy disk controller cards with the Yellowstone. So I really like his products. I've had minimal interaction with him as a person, but they've all been positive. So if you don't know his name because you haven't seen it mentioned in KFest, well, here I am trying to plug that gap. Go check out bigmessowires.com. That is not a paid advertisement. This is stuff that I love, and I love that people in the community are doing this work. A Big Mess of Wires. Check it out. So that's it. This has been the annual KansasFest 2026 Mega Podcast. I appreciate everybody listening to Metal Video RPG Lock, as we're calling it this year. The name changes every year based on who shows up. And this year, we were the lucky or unfortunate four, depending on how you look at it. I hope everybody stays tuned for more amazing Apple II events, podcasts, participation, Discord channels. Everywhere you go, the Apple II is somewhere. So thanks all for joining, whether you're watching this on the live stream. This is the final event of this year's Kansas Fests, plural. And we will be back next year with whatever this podcast looks like and is called then. Until next time,
Apple II!
Apple II forever.
retro compute.
This has been the Open Apple Podcast. Find more episodes, read our blog, or send feedback by visiting us on the web at www.open-apple.net.